Hi guys, I'm Mr. Zcon and this vlog is about how storytelling told me why was I sent to this planet. Back in 2008, when I just completed my high school, I was thinking to myself, what am I supposed to do with this life? Then came the summer of 2008 and the biggest miracle of my life finally happened. I witnessed the epic release of The Dark Knight, directed by the legendary Christopher Nolan. Watching this film completely changed the way I used to look at the world and obstacles in life. This film triggered a key ambition in my mind, the ambition to write stories myself, and quite predictably, superhero stories inspired by the world of comic books. So I decided to take a journal out and write a well thought out story about this man who is a complete loser in the beginning of his life, but then he witnesses something and he realizes that he could be so much more than what he was taught to be. I had complete control over the plot, the characters, the villains, the twists, the turns, and everything that goes into a nice little small story. And once I realized the power of this control, I fell in love with it. So I decided to write some more stories. I kept on writing story after story without falling a victim to the dreaded writer's block. And once I wrote all these stories, I put them together side by side and I realized something. All these stories were about this small little character with little known existence who then goes on to achieve much bigger things than his imagination ever initially allowed him to capture. Now, I finally realized why was I sent here and what was I supposed to do here. I was meant to be a storyteller. And the only thing that I cared about from that moment and onwards was telling stories. And that's it. So I decided the best medium for me to tell stories would be through TV and films as opposed to books, novels and other mediums. So the major that I chose in my university life was film. And that was the beginning of the ideal life that I always subconsciously wanted to live. So then I developed this team of like-minded folks, began to write stories, began to direct movies, and transformed my life into something worth living for. Now the whole reason of taking you through that story was to let you know that all it takes sometimes to change your life is one incredible story. If you're watching this vlog and you're struggling to change the way you look at the world, then I'm willing to bet my life on it that you're just one single amazing story away from completely transforming your own life. You just need to go out there and look for it. But the whole point of my story is that you don't necessarily need someone else's story to inspire you and make you realize what you were supposed to do in this life. This little incredible story can come out of your own mind, where you just need to pick up a piece of paper or anything that you can write on and start writing any story that comes to your mind. The story could be about anything or anybody, but if I were to suggest, you should start with the kind of person that you want to be. Start writing about your ideal profession, your ideal house, your ideal love life, your ideal everything. This should be the very first story that you should write after watching this vlog. Once you've finished writing that story, start writing another one. And when you finish with that, start writing another one. Keep jotting stories after stories until finally you discover that one little story that will completely change everything for you, like it did with me. I stumbled upon The Dark Knight, got inspired to write superhero stories, and after reading those stories, I discovered I wanted to be a storyteller, and now here I am telling stories. It's an absolute necessity that you stop everything that you're doing right now, open up a pad, and start jotting down stories. It just needs to come out of your mind and into the reality so you can figure out your own reality. That is how storytelling changed my life, and it can do the same for you. On a closing note, I'm going to repeat myself from my previous vlog. If you're a director, if you're a producer, if you have a team, if you have the resources or you can put together the resources, and if you're genuinely interested in making short films and then moving on to doing much bigger things together, then I'm genuinely interested in providing a story and a screenplay for you to work with. Simply get in touch with me through my email, that is zcon4@gmail.com, and stay tuned to my website www.zconstory.com, where I'll be releasing vlogs about storytelling every Tuesday. So, in the hopes of connecting with filmmakers and storytellers worldwide, this is Mr. Zcon in the making of a great story.